Emily had barely slept that night. Every creak, every whisper of the wind outside felt amplified in the suffocating stillness of the apartment. She kept replaying the footage on her laptop, eyes locked on the dark shape that haunted the corner of the room. The thing wasn't human. It moved like a shadow, but with intention, deliberate, slow, as if it was studying her. She scrolled through the frames again, heart pounding, searching for any clue. The flickering static on the screen warped the image, but she thought she saw something beneath the figure's surface, a faint pattern, almost like veins or cracks spreading outward. Emily's phone buzzed again. This time the message was longer. "Leave now. It's not safe here. They watch." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she couldn't bring herself to reply. Something rooted her to the spot, a mix of fear and curiosity. The apartment's lights flickered violently, plunging her into darkness for a heartbeat before buzzing back on. A cold draft swept past her, carrying the faint scent of something rotten, like decayed leaves mixed with iron. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the chill seep through her skin. Suddenly, a low whisper slithered through the room, almost inaudible but unmistakable. "Stay." Emily spun around, but the apartment was empty. Her breath quickened. She grabbed the camera and started filming the walls, the corners, every inch of the room. As she panned the lens across the peeling wallpaper, the whisper came again, clearer this time. "You belong to us." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She fumbled to turn the camera off and ran to the small kitchen, locking the door behind her. In the reflection of the cracked window, she saw it, a figure standing behind her in the dark hallway, tall and faceless. She blinked. It was gone. Emily didn't know how long she sat there, trembling in the dark, until morning's weak light seeped through the curtains. But as dawn came, the apartment felt colder than ever. And she knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Emily barely remembered how she made it through the night. The cold clung to her skin like a second layer, and the oppressive silence of the apartment weighed heavily on her chest. Determined to understand what was happening, she dove into the building's history. At the public library, amid yellowed newspapers and brittle files, she uncovered the apartment's dark past. Unit 4B had once belonged to a woman named Margaret Ellis, a recluse who vanished without a trace over 40 years ago. Local rumors said Margaret was involved in occult practices, desperate to contact something beyond the veil of this world. Emily's fingers trembled as she read a police report. Neighbors reported strange chanting and screams in the dead of night, and the apartment had been sealed off for years after an unexplained fire gutted the adjacent unit. Back in her apartment, Emily found a small, worn notebook tucked inside a loose floorboard near the wall where she had seen the shadowy figure. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols and frantic handwriting, speaking of the Watcher, the Veil, and the ones who wait beyond. That night, she set up her camera again, determined to capture whatever haunted the apartment. She stayed awake, eyes scanning the darkness, every nerve taut. Hours passed. Then, just as the clock struck 2:13 a.m., her camera recorded something impossible. A thin, elongated hand slid out from the wall beside her bed, pale, translucent, fingers unnaturally long and curling like claws. The hand grasped toward her, inch by inch. Emily froze, breath caught in her throat. The hand retreated, pulling back into the wall as the temperature dropped so sharply she could see her own breath misting in the darkness. A voice, not quite human, but layered with something ancient, whispered directly into her ear. "You cannot leave. You belong to Unit 4B now." The camera cut out. Emily's phone buzzed again. The message was chillingly simple. "Do not watch the footage." Emily's hands trembled as she clutched the notebook. The cryptic symbols seemed to pulse faintly under her fingertips, as if alive. She realized the words weren't just scribbles, they were a warning, a desperate plea from someone trapped before her. That night, the apartment seemed to breathe around her. The walls whispered secrets just beyond hearing. Shadows gathered in corners, flickering like dying flames. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fleeting visions, a woman screaming in silence, a room filled with smoke and mirrors, and the same faceless figure watching, always watching. Sleep became impossible. The line between reality and nightmare blurred until Emily could no longer tell if she was awake or trapped inside the footage itself. Emily's world had narrowed to the cold, peeling walls of Unit 4B and the invisible weight pressing down on her mind. She barely ate. She barely slept. The apartment was no longer just a place to live, it was a cage. The messages on her phone continued, always the same warning, always unsigned. Do not watch the footage. But Emily couldn't stop. Every moment she wasn't filming, she felt the eyes of the entity pressing closer, the silence thickening into a physical presence, crawling over her skin like icy fingers. One night, desperate for answers, she played the first video again, the one where the tall, faceless figure appeared. As the figure moved toward the camera and vanished through the wall, Emily noticed something new, a faint shimmer, like a veil lifting for a brief second. The veil wasn't just a trick of light. It was a barrier between worlds. Determined, Emily found herself drawn to the darkest corner of the apartment, the wall where the figure had disappeared. Her hands shook as she pressed against the cracked plaster, feeling the cold pulse beneath the surface. Then, suddenly, the wall rippled like water. She staggered back as a low, guttural growl filled the room, a sound too deep to be human, vibrating the very air around her. The faceless entity emerged again, but this time it was different. Its form was more defined, a mass of twisting shadows with eyes glowing faintly red, dripping with black ichor. It spoke, voice like gravel scraping bone. You opened the door. You cannot close it. You belong to us now. Emily tried to scream, but no sound came out. The air thickened, constricting her throat. She felt herself slipping, pulled toward the wall, toward the dark realm beyond. In a desperate attempt, she grabbed the notebook, the one full of cryptic symbols, and recited the words scrawled on the last page. By light and shadow, veil and bone, I bind the watcher to his throne. Return to darkness, leave this place, or be consumed by empty space. For a moment, the apartment held its breath. The shadows recoiled, the air grew lighter, and the entity screamed, a sound of pure rage and despair. Emily collapsed to the floor, gasping. The wall was solid again. But the nightmare was far from over. The camera, still recording, captured one last horrifying image before shutting off. Emily's pale face, eyes wide with terror, and behind her, faint in the darkness, dozens of faceless figures staring silently, waiting for their next victim. Days later, the police found the apartment empty. Emily was gone. The only evidence left was her camera, lying face down on the floor. The footage was recovered, but every time someone tried to watch it, their screen would freeze, then display a chilling warning in blood-red letters. Do not watch the footage. And those who ignored it? They never returned. The police never found Emily, but those who dared enter Unit 4B later spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread, and an unshakable feeling that something unseen was watching, waiting for the next person to cross the threshold.